Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Bring a Trailer podcast. This is Randy Nonnenberg, co-founder of Bring a Trailer. I'm super excited about a couple of guests that we have today. Today, we have Mark Brinker and Myron Vernis. Both of them are users on Bring a Trailer that you may recognize. Both have been around Bring a Trailer for a super long time, and I'm excited to talk to them about their history with the site, but also excited to talk with them about something called A Quiet Greatness, a set of books that they have released regarding and covering at extensive detail Japanese automobiles, Japan's most astonishing automobiles, they call it, for the collector and the enthusiast. Obviously, that's something very near and dear to BAT and BAT users and enthusiasts. So, Mark, Myron, super happy to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You bet. I'm super excited to dive into the book but also maybe some of the background to why this is a topic near and dear to your heart and the depth that you decided to go to. I'm looking at the book here in front of me. There's 4 volumes in the book, plus a really detailed appendix. And I just hauled it up a set of stairs to come up to my office, and my whole staff was looking at me, like I'm hauling a couple of barbells or something. I mean, this thing is serious, and when it shows up in the mail, you know it. And I'd love to, just delve into your guys' psyche a little bit on the level of depth you went to, and the research that must have gone into this must have been unbelievable. Tell me a little bit about the process.
Well, it only took us 6 years. So, it might be a little misleading there, but Mark and I got into Japanese cars. Mark, what would you say, about 10 years ago or so?
10 years ago.
Yeah, we're both kind of automotive omnivores, and the Japanese market kind of hit us. Mark's written other books, and he saw an opportunity there to help enlighten automotive community. So he tried to talk me into it for 2 or 3 years. Finally, I retired and I had some time. I had no more excuses. So we originally planned on doing like a 300-page, just kind of coffee table book.
A normal book.
A normal book. And this is, what does Jeff Lane call it? An out of control hobby. This is the worst case of mission creep, I think, ever.
What we wanted to create, Randy, was a book that you could see from outer space.
You're pretty close. I only laugh because, no joke, that hauling it up the stairs, I don't think I'm going to do that again. I think this thing's just going to live in our conference room now, and it's going to be a permanent fixture. So I laugh about the weight and the heft and the size here, but some of the depth and the subject matter. I mean, obviously, it's a big topic, Japanese cars, influence of Japanese cars, different things that have happened. But overall, like, what made you choose to follow the themes that you did versus probably there's something that you couldn't cover in this, right? I mean, it is scope to some degree. Eventually, you got to get it out the door. Was the goal more historical, or was the goal more, why is here and now the time to be talking about this? Or what was the sort of major motivation and framing behind the message of the book, you'd say?
So the timing of the here and now, I think, is what pushed Myron and I to dive into this. And when we started the project, we knew it was going to be a lot of work. But as Myron said, it turned into 6 years, which is not an insignificant part of human adult life. But so that was the impetus. That was the push, that the time was right. But in terms of selecting cars, all of us in the hobby, if we are collectors or enthusiasts, we decide what we like or what we want to collect or what we're going to buy. I mean, that's what your site, that's what Bring a Trailer is all about, is what are people selling and what are people buying? What do they want to add to their collection? And then, of course, all your users, that the genius of Bring a Trailer is that everybody gets to weigh in on their likes and dislikes and, comment on cars. So the selection of cars was very much like that. Myron and I would discuss, what we liked and what we thought was important and influential designs. And, we started off with a list, and the list just kept growing and growing because we learned more about it. But there wasn't a criteria. We didn't have a scoring system or anything like that. It was what lights your fire, right? And so most of the cars in the book, Myron and I agreed on. A few of them, one of us was really passionate, and so we included it. So it just sort of grew organically. There's 14 manufacturers, and the book represents a compendium of what Myron and Mark think are the coolest, most important, most outrageous Japanese cars, all of post-war, starting from immediately post-war until the day the book was printed, basically.
Yeah. So as Mark said, car selection was kind of subjective or very subjective. But what we wanted to do, even though the selection was subjective, was to make sure that we shared all the information as to why we thought these were terrific cars, to get other people excited about these cars. And most of them, people, especially in the US market, are cars that people aren't familiar with, or if they were familiar with them, like a Celica, would they know, all the World Rally Championships and things like that, or any manufacturer like a Mitsubishi, which has never had a great presence in this country, what great cars they've produced and sold and competed with around the world.
And as Myron said, why they're great.
I think you get into a lot of the why they're great, which is really neat. And even back in I geeked out and went deep into the, appendix book number 5, and you list off the different championships that they've won. And oh man, there's so much cool stuff. But before I go way down that rabbit hole, the presentation that you guys do and just the aesthetic of the book, I feel like is at a super high level. And like having it out, it's like a display piece. It's one of those types of books. It's not like a car magazine or a disposable feel by any means. It's like an heirloom sort of feel. And getting to that, a lot of it revolves around photography. So my first question when I was thumbing through it with our staff here at the BAT offices is how'd they get all these cutaways and how they get all these pictures and how they get, I don't know if it's like a rights thing or you guys have awesome relationships with the manufacturers and got to go crawl around the archives or car magazines that did this stuff, because some of it is period, right? Like I don't think they were on your guys' cameras or whatever, but I don't know if you know the right people or like how that works out. Give the audience a little bit of insight into how you aesthetically present all this, because the photos are so important. And you have, every other page, I'm thumbing through it right now, every other page has like a full page, full bleed, beautiful, like here's a touring car Honda S2000 from Japan, like I don't know where you got that photo. Like how on earth did you get that?
So go ahead, Mark.
So as far as the aesthetic goes, Myron and I decided from the beginning that we wanted this book to be at the highest level possible, because that is what we think of Japanese cars. And if we did, a paperback book, low quality, poor paper, poor photographs, which is a lot of what this sector of the market has had in the past, and that just sort of brings the cars down. Nobody would do a Ferrari book or a Gullwing book or a Maserati race car book that was mediocre. So we wanted it to be of the highest quality possible, and we hired the highest quality possible, which is Richard Barron, who ran the art department at Road Track for decades, and just a fantastic, incredibly talented guy. So we started with that. As far as the photographs go, that was more than 2 years of the project, was sourcing photographs. And the answer is, we started with a big Excel spreadsheet that was thousands of lines long, and just every day Myron and I were on the phone. A lot of the photographs came from the manufacturers. We got permission from Nissan after a year and a half to get some of their secret archives. And Rich Plavitich, who is he Lagunatich on Bring a Trailer?
He's very big on BAT. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So he's a former Nissan executive engineer, and he was really important in because Nissan makes up a quarter of the book. It's its own volume. But manufacturers, collectors, private individuals, I found a gentleman in Europe that had good photographer, not a professional, but high quality. He went to Le Mans a bunch of years and had some photographs, just finding people and networking and, but 2 years of that.
Yeah, and it was just not all professionals too. We found enthusiasts. I mean, from like Malaysia and Hong Kong. We found photographers in Hong Kong, enthusiasts who, during the height of the riots, were kind of risking their own safety by going out and getting shots for us for cars that we didn't have good shots for. And actually, we have some shots in there too. Some cars we couldn't find that were bat listings, and we had to track back and find the seller. I think there was a Mitsubishi for sure.
Is that
That's
right?
right.
There's
One other
BAT
vehicle.
alumni cars inside
Yeah.
the pages.
Yeah.
Yes, but
Man, I'm gonna
we
pull
played
that one
it
out.
straight.
I'm gonna go to volume 2, which is Mazda, Mitsubishi, Mitsuoka. I don't even know Mitsuoka. You guys are gonna have to educate me.
Oh,
You need to look.
Randy, you look at the Mitsuoka section and you're going to be lost for every other car in the world.
Here we go. I opened right to that page. It must be
Check out the Arachi.
Okay, cool.
It's gonna change your life.
But
My dream car.
I'm so funny. I mean, and the moment I hear there's a BAT alumni cars, I'm gonna go like find it. I'm gonna go root it out, whether it's on the internet or now I'm doing it in paper pages. I love it. I love all this.
So yeah, so we had photography commissioned. We had individuals that we've bought from magazines, we bought from photographers, and like Mark said, really, eventually all the manufacturers kind of opened their archives for us, and they were really great to work with. Actually, we and when we went back and asked for their permission to use the specific images that we wanted, sometimes they came back and they said, "Where'd you find that? We didn't even know we had those images." So it was really kind of a neat experience. But as Mark said, well over 2 years of our time was dedicated to that, and we made sure that we had the rights to every photo. In that volume 5 you talked about, every image, every one of those 2,200 images are attributed in the index.
So cool. Can we give some quick off the top of your head stats of what's going on? I'm sitting here with the books in front of me, and people listening won't have them in front of them. So what do you guys rattle off as like the resume of this book and this whole collection? Like number of cars, number of pages, obviously you said 6 years of your life. I think that's probably the top line stat, but what are the kind of cool stats that you can share with folks?
Well, right off the top, the easy stuff is 1,400 pages, 2,200 images, 35 pounds, or 16 kilograms, I guess, because we've sold a lot to Europe.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Those are the big things.
Yep. So just
12
sort of size and scale and volume.
12 by 12.
Yeah, the format is super interesting to me, and one that I mean, we have coffee table books that come through, some that have been sort of fixtures within our office and at my home, and a lot of different people have libraries. You guys have probably seen some people transacting libraries actually on BAT of people who collect this stuff. And what kind of interest have you seen around it? You said you sold a bunch into Europe. There's been interest there. Who else has been the fastest to jump on and be able to be either an advocate or a contributor or a fan of what you guys are doing? Were there any surprises there?
Well, we've had really, it's kind of a redeeming force, the 6 years worth of effort. All the reviews that have come through so far have just been kind of overwhelmingly positive. All the major magazines here in the States, as well as Classic and Sports Car in the UK. Octane is coming up. Again,
Sports car market.
Sports car market. Yeah. Cool. So it's all been very positive, and the penetration really worldwide has been great. We've really done no marketing other than put up the website, and we've relied on the reviews to put the word out to other people, and it's been really great for us. We've sold about a third of the limited productions so far without really doing anything.
Fantastic.
I'd say that, without doing anything. We go around. We
You were out at Pebble Beach. Well, I can tell people, and people may have seen, right? I was lucky and got to drive the new Z, a cool Japanese car down there, and and then met you down there, Myron, and you guys had a display of vehicles and had the books out.
Right, we had the
Tell us
sample
about what
books.
that was like, and who was walking by, paging through, or who was interested in the vehicles.
It was really a great experience. We didn't actually have the books yet, except for the two sample copies that we had there. But we were right on the walkway going out there. The Motor Trend and Infinity brought back on a smaller scale the Japanese Automotive Invitational, and they allowed us to be part of their display. And it was really the great thing about Pebble Beach was you get a really diverse group of enthusiasts. You get older people, you get younger people, and where we were was in a free area, so people weren't paying admission to be in there. And it was interesting to introduce it there, as opposed to we were at JCCS, the Japanese Classic Car Show, in Long Beach a few weeks later, which was a group of very focused enthusiasts, and the response there was terrific also.
Yeah, tell me about what it was like at JCCS. I didn't get to go to that this year. We've had BAT presence there in the past, and you guys have probably been to that a number of times. But how was the book received? I mean, it's kind of right in their sweet spot, right? But are those a bunch of book collecting type folks, or do they more want to look at BAT listings on their smartphone?
Mark, it was Mark's first experience. I'll let him kind of expound on that.
So I would say both. We weren't inundated all day with people fighting over books, and buying them like perhaps a new Porsche book would be at a Porsche meet. But there was a lot of enthusiasm. People were shocked to see, the mass of information. And, one of the things we haven't talked about, we've talked about how beautiful the book is, but really our goal was to create a coffee table looking book that was encyclopedic in information. And so that's why it's so big, because we wanted it to be beautiful, but it also has a huge amount of information. So the younger people who are not typical book buyers were still, really enthralled when they saw all the data. Like, they went into the index and you can find every SCCA national champion in a Japanese car. You can find all the results for all the cars covered in the World Rally Championship. And it's all, neatly tabulated where it's really easily accessible. And, things like, in the hobby, there's, this sort of idea that the Hakosukas won 50 something races in a row, but you never see those races. It's just kind of this thing. And that was one of the things that Myron and I decided we wanted to do, was not just sort of propagate rumors and information. So you'll find that list of all of those 50 something races where they won consecutively, and you can see the racetrack and the car number and the driver. And so people at this show kind of lost their mind, looking at the information. And we sold a lot of copies there.
We sold a lot more than we anticipated going into it. Randy, going into this project, no one has ever done a big, beautiful book in the English language about Japanese cars. Actually, when we were shopping it around, we self-published the book. We decided to self-publish the book after we shopped it to some of the higher end book houses. They all said, "Oh, it's fantastic. This is, Ferrari, Lamborghini quality, but, we're not going to take a risk on the Japanese market." And even the people involved with JCCS said, we don't know how well you'll do there. And as Mark said, the reception was overwhelming, and we sold a heck of a lot more books than we thought we would. It's an expensive book. Mark and I priced it as competitively as we possibly could to try to get our investment back out of it without compensation for 6 years worth of our time, because we felt it's something we needed to do for the community. But it's still an expensive book. And the result was we're very happy with our sales results there and the reception. And at Pebble Beach, one of the interesting comments we got from someone, an older guy who was just kind of introduced to this stuff, said, boy, now that you guys have done this, aren't you worried that people are going to start copying you? And we said, yeah, that's kind of the plan. We want people to start copying us. This is a market that has arrived. These are great cars. They deserve the respect that other brands get, other marks get.
That makes a lot of sense. And I don't think it's any secret that it's expensive. I think it's worth every penny, but can you share, you're selling these on your own website, you're self-published, you're kind of handling distribution, it would seem. And what's the price for the book or the set of books, I should call it, on the website?
Yeah. So the set of books is $350, which, in actual dollars, as Myron said, that's a lot of dollars for a working person. It's a lot of dollars, but I can't think of another book that I've bought in the last even 20 years that had this kind of information, this kind of volume of pages, this kind of quality, that was less than $350. I mean, for what you get, it's a real bargain.
But you guys keep calling it a book, right? But I wrestle with that because for me, it's like a set of books, right? I mean, if you divided that cost over there's 5 books that are in here, right? And then you start to get to what they are on a per basis. But regardless of cost, and just conceptually, you guys think of it as one book, these 1,400. I mean, there's no way you could bind these into a single item. You had to break it up, I think. But conceptually in your guys' head, is it still one book to you?
Yeah, it is. Even though you're right, we couldn't do that. We had to do the volumes just so that it could be.
I mean, it's enormous.
Yeah, and each volume still weighs a lot. Right? We wanted it to be as user friendly as it could possibly be. But Randy, just look at it as $10 a pound, cheaper than really good hamburgers.
By weight. Yeah, no, I'm telling you, no doubt. Well, we don't need to go too deep on the price stuff because that's almost beside the point. Let me tell you, in front of you, it's just totally enthralling. I'm sitting here. You guys probably can't see, but I'm just turning through the pages now. I'm on the Mitsubishi pages, and now I'm just going all the way down the rabbit hole. And you look down, and what page am I on? Oh, I'm on page 586 of this volume. It's just like it keeps going sort of forever. And we had some really I joke about the environment here in the office, but like we tore this thing. First of all, everybody was like, what showed up for you, Randy? What's in that box? And then we opened it and everybody pounced on all of these and started going through all the pages and oohing and ahhing. You flip the page and like, oh, now there's a rally car midair. Oh, now there's a, pre-production drawing. Here's a model. Oh yeah, here's some cars I've never even seen before in my life. But anyhow, there's some really neat stuff inside it. But I think a little bit more for our listeners, they'd maybe love to know your guys' background, because something brought you to this point where you wanted to do this with these Japanese cars. Myron, you hinted about Mark writing some other books. This is a long chain of things you've been doing, and what brought you guys to this. Mark, would you share a little bit about maybe other things you've been working on? You are also MBND Cars on BAT and have placed plenty of bids and seen some other cars transact on BAT. But outside of BAT, your car world that brought you to this point, could you share with us?
So I have collected lots of different things, over the last 30 years. I don't really have a focus. I'm not a Porsche collector or Ferrari collector. I collect things that excite me, and things that offer an opportunity to bring something out to the world, a little bit like this Japanese book. So I've shown cars at Pebble Beach, and every single one of those cars has been sort of a missing car. I used to write a column for Vintage Race Car Journal called Hidden Treasures. I wrote that for 10 years, and I kind of collect hidden treasures. I showed a Streamliner that hadn't been seen by the public in 60 years. So I look for cars like that.
Unusual stuff, it sounds like.
Unusual stuff. So my collection, the biggest number of cars I have are coach-built Italian cars from the 1950s. I've got, lots of aluminum body, twin cam, open and closed cars.
But weird little like small displacement Moretti type stuff, or like big boy Maserati type stuff?
I would say big bore Moretti-like stuff, like 1204 cc's.
Getting crazy with you breaking the 1100 mark.
That's right.
Yeah, my only Moretti's 750 cc. And I'm
Yeah, I
proud of
thought
that.
those were the little ones. I didn't know they
Yeah.
got, wild in the later
Right.
days and got over a liter.
Right. Oscar 1600 GT Zagato.
Oh, cool.
Kind of medium-sized stuff, not Ferraris and Maseratis, although I had some Maseratis 20 years ago. I had a time in my collecting life where I was vintage racing, and I got into American specials and co-wrote a book called Vintage American Road Racing Cars, 1950 to 1970. And that sort of catapulted the next year Steve Earle to do his featured mark was American Specials. And that book was nominated for the Dean Batchelor Award. Similar approach to this book, but we were working with a publisher, and it didn't allow me and my co-author to do the same kind of thing that Myron and I did with this work. Publishers, have accountants and all kinds of things that sort of can hamstring the greatness of a project. Myron and I have wives, and that's they set the yellow lines for us. But they're a little
doesn't
easy.
mean you don't cross them on a regular basis.
That's right. So my automotive career has involved vintage racing, showing cars, racing at Bonneville, and then a lot of automotive writing. I write for Octane and Sports Car Market. I just finished another book on the Austrian sports car Denzel.
Wow.
Writing is kind of a second career for me. I also do some screenwriting.
Fantastic, Mark. Thanks for giving us the background. And then you actually mentioned to me just before we started up a vehicle that you transacted on BAT, which was actually Japanese. Is that right? You had a Toyota Sports, or what did you have that you said went through BAT?
Yeah. So at one time I owned 3 Toyota Sports 800s, and I sold one on Bring a Trailer that was a nice car restoration project and got, just an insane world record price. It was another case of BAT magic.
Fantastic. I'm going to look that one up right now while we're talking. I always love to hear those stories, and people just like the connection point to BAT. We appreciate you being a supporter and believer in BAT since the early days.
I think that car went to Poland.
Oh, is that right?
I think so.
Wow.
Now,
any idea? Was this years and years ago, or how long ago was this?
Maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Myron, do you know the buyer of that car?
Yeah. No, I know the car. The car's in Russia, and it's
It didn't
just
go to
about
Poland.
done.
It didn't go to Poland.
Well,
it went to Russia.
It ended up in Russia, and it's just about
Okay.
done.
All right. Myron knows more about my car than I do, which is not surprising, actually.
Not surprising.
No.
Well, that's a good segue. Myron, you're known as one of the brave commenters that comments under your proper name on BAT.
Yeah.
That's a rare and esteemed group. So people know you that way, but maybe there's some listening right now that don't know much of you or what you're up to. Is Mark has done a bunch of books. That's super interesting. I didn't realize there was a American specials book. That sounds super interesting. Have you also been in the publishing and book world, Myron, on other topics, or is this a first foray?
Yeah, this is a first. I'm here just because of Mark, right? It's as Mark stated earlier. I was kind of his chosen victim for this book, but it was equal insanity, and I'm glad I did it. Don't know if I'll be doing another one, unlike Mark. It's not a passion for me. Although I'm glad we made it happen, and very proud of this work. And if it's the only book I do, I think it's good to finish on top sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fantastic.
But,
and then
but my history with
Yeah.
my history with BAT's been, I've been on board for close to 15 years. You and I met at Baja Cantina in 2008 during Pebble Beach Week.
That sounds
And,
fantastic. I can taste the margaritas as you say
Oh
that.
man, such a good place to do that. It was our mutual friend Jeff Archer had put together a group of guys who didn't know each other, and by dumb luck, a few weeks earlier, I had a car. You'd picked one of my cars that I had on Craigslist or something, maybe eBay at the time, a Simca 1204 rally car. And I think it got a grand total like 3 comments or something, which was pretty good.
That was actually pretty, that was a banner
Yeah.
day for me back in the early days.
Right.
I'm looking at your account. Yeah, joined March of 08,
Yeah.
early days. Not many members back at that.
Yeah, no, I remember we were sitting across the table from each other, and you were surprised that I knew what Bring a Trailer was.
Yeah. I'm still surprised from time to time when people come out of the woodwork, but it's a little more ubiquitous these days. Those were the real Skunk Works early days back then.
Yeah, but made a lot of good relationships through the site, and tell you it's a great community, and kudos to you and your team for being able to grow it to what it's become and still maintain that level of community and just high quality people involved with it. So kudos to you for maintaining levels of moderation, which is a big topic today on the internet.
Oh man, it's tricky.
You guys know how to do it.
Yep, it's amazing. It's come a long way. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of work that goes into it. We're kind of doing it the hard way, and we always have. But the kind of like you guys in the book, you do it the hard way, and you can be proud of the end product, right? So we're kind of aligned in that sort of way. Mark, I'm looking. I found that your Toyota on the site. You said that Rafi helped you list it and sell it, which is awesome. We always love hearing that. And yeah, it's fun to dig around back here in some of the other sports 800s that we're going through. But that's interesting to me because you list off a lot of Italian sort of specials, and then you talked about vintage racing and stuff. You didn't talk about owning too many Japanese cars, but that sports 800 is even a model a lot of people don't even know exists, but you had 3 of them, and then you had
3 of them in
Russia. And I mean, all these stories are always so great.
2 of them were left-hand drive. I still have I have a left-hand drive car that's beautifully restored. A local guy who helps me in Houston, Andy Soon, restored the car. And then I have a right-hand drive car that will soon be seen on the Bonneville Salt Flats racing.
Wow. Fantastic. I hope it gets some sort of benefit from the class it's in, and it's not going to be, against a rocket car or anything like that.
No, so I race in a 750cc sports car class. It's called Grand Sports Touring. And the J class is for 750cc's, and I have the naturally aspirated and supercharged record that I did in a Deutsch Benet HBR5, a French car. And I'm going after
where'd that Deutsch Benet come from?
You guys are made for each other. You guys are absolutely made for each other.
I'm going after my own record, but Myron's going to tell you that he's the real hero of the story. Go, Myron.
Yeah. So this is kind of really how we met. Was I get a call from this guy from Texas saying blah 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 blah. I heard you have a couple Deutsch Benets. I had a couple. We had through a mutual friend, and he said, "Would you be interested in selling one?" I said, "Nah, I'm not really that interested." Then he told me what his plans were, and to take it to Bonneville, build it as a Bonneville car like that. And at that point, I had to sell him one of the cars.
Why did you believe me?
Because this needed to happen. This
right.
Saga needed to happen.
But that was kind of the beginning of this thing, and as a result, we've now I still have a Deutsch Benet. Mark has 2, like he said. I have a Sports 800. Mark has 2, like he said. That's
what I mean. You guys are like parallel lives.
Well, and the interesting thing about the book, the book, as you can see, was a major undertaking financially. It's not something that you just kind of call Amazon.
You're not doing this to make money. That's not what you're trying to do.
We're trying to get our money back.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, at least, okay. But printing the book was not the most expensive part of the book. What ended up being the most expensive part of the book was Mark and I discovering cars that we didn't know existed, and then all of a sudden, oh crap! We need these cars. And I think at last count, between the 2 of us, we probably acquired 18 cars as a result of research that we had done on the book.
Yeah, you asked earlier, Randy, and I'm thinking my wife probably won't be listening to this podcast. I have a dozen Japanese cars.
You're safe. This is your safe space, Mark. Say whatever you want to say.
Okay.
Okay, it's not safe for me, but Randy, you know Kim. You know she's on top. Much
She may
more.
be listening to this. We'll see.
Oh,
what
she will be.
happens.
She'll definitely be listening to this. But you know, I've got I think 12, 13 Japanese cars myself.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, this is awesome. So anyway, I got to give the live play-by-play here. So I pull out the Nissan book, or the Nissan and Datsun and Prince, which I think is a cool grouping. Turn to page. Man, is that for real? Oh, they're numerical through the different volumes. So I'm on page 700 pretty quick because it goes numerically through all the volumes.
And that's why we call it one book.
I get
That's
you.
right.
I get you.
And Randy, the contents for all 4 volumes is in every volume. So if you're in one volume and you need to go to another volume, the contents are there.
Oh, it's cool. So it doesn't, yes, you can reference photographs and that sort of stuff easier if you say it's on page 700 than you say it's on, all of them have a page 100. I understand. Okay, cool. So, but then I flip the page to 702, 703. It's a full like panorama of, and I'll read the caption, the start of the Fuji International Golden Race, Race B, 100 miles on September 6, 1970. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or more Skylines, a Toyota Stout pickup truck support vehicle, a modified looking couple Datsun Roadsters. There's, oh man, just crazy looking stuff. There's people in the stands. It's just
right. So that's an example of a photograph that we sourced from Nissan, and you know we had the regular media Nissan site that you know everyone can go to and see photographs and use, but we got this sort of backdoor link from Rich Plavitich. And as Myron said, I think there's a huge number of photographs that no one at Nissan even remembers that they have. I mean, a lot of these photographs have never been seen anywhere.
So what is that back door though? So they gave you like a link and you can sneak into a website, or you're like crawling around in a dusty building somewhere?
No.
Like,
it's a link, and we had permission. It wasn't like we were doing something we weren't supposed to.
Okay.
But Rich gave us a link that was similar to the regular link, but it had a few extra slashes and letters. And all of a sudden you fell into this, you know, treasure trove of hundreds of really cool old racing photos.
Man.
Yeah, and a lot of those conceptual drawings that you see, the spectacular conceptual drawings that have not been out in the public at all. So it's we were very fortunate that way. And all the manufacturers were very, very accommodating.
That's so
right. We also found some photographers that had great professional you know, rally images. Early on, Myron and I, you know, had lots of discussions about what to include in the book and what not. And, you know, are rally images really what this book is about or not? And we decided, you know, the reason that some of these cars are so iconic and so important are what they did racing. And even though the race cars were different than the street cars, you know, a lot of times that's the reason the street cars did so well. So we were fortunate to find really exciting. You mentioned, you know, some of the rally pictures that you looked at when you opened the book, and they're incredible. I mean, some of them you look at them and you don't understand how the car landed right side up.
Yeah, it's really wild. And on many of the models, it's interesting to think about, right? Because when I was getting BAT off the ground, a lot of people, because I was maybe younger and the kind of stuff I was featuring a lot of 510s, a lot of weird Mitsubishis, a lot of vintage Toyota product and Hondas and stuff. People would come and say, you know, oh, this is the emerging Japanese segment. These are coming into their own. There was all this language that sort of the establishment, for lack of a better term, started to pay attention to Japanese cars. And I got asked about it all the time because I was really into it and thought it was as viable as Italian or German or anything else. And that surprised people. But I think it's what made BAT resonate with a lot of people, because I think a lot of you guys and others saw that as both the writing on the wall of the future, but also just kind of the stuff they'd been into, like buddies that were into 240Zs since we were kids type stuff. So seeing that in these pages, I think it's interesting to look at some of these motorsport images which may have never seen the light of day. Like, I don't know where you found some of these photos like you're talking about. You certainly don't see them very often, but like the 240 RS Nissan, rally car, Group A or WRC or whatever it was back in the day, that sort of stuff. I mean, they're relatively unknown. I mean, you see them in the British car magazines every once in a while, and those guys knew them because the rallies were on their turf and not ours. But Americans in particular don't really know about this sort of stuff. So I think it would be so educational for people to read through it and understand that even before this more recent coming of age or coming into the mainstream collectible, these cars were achieving crazy things, right? And I feel like a lot of people don't really know that story. So the degree to which this book can help tell that, I think it's in a cool spot. Now I flip the pages. I'm at the Pulsar GTIR, ripping through some places, and then I'm all over the place. Anyway, I love the whole narrative of it and how you broke it down by manufacturer. You decided to kind of emphasize the manufacturer instead of just like marching through a timeline of history. Tell me why you did that.
Well, we discussed the format. Obviously, was a topic discussion through the whole period, and I think the way we ended up just made more sense for us, and we relied on Richard Barron, the designer, a lot. I mean, he like Mark said, 30 years as the art director at Road and Track, really during their prime, and not only very talented, but a very logical thinker with a lot of experience. So, people think in things as opposed to numbers, and like you'd mentioned, we didn't want 1 through 500 or one volume, 1 through 400 in the next volume. We just try to do things as logically as possible to make the book, because 1,400 pages is a lot. But so we did everything we could to make it as user friendly as possible.
Yeah, the other thing, Randy, is imagine a book. Let's say it was done as a timeline. You'd be talking about some Nissans in 1976 or whatever, and then you go to Mitsubishi, and then 3 years later you'd be talking about another Nissan that had an evolution of the earlier motor, and it would just be totally confusing to the reader to jump around between 14 manufacturers because they all built lots of cars every year. This way, it's sort of a pacing through each manufacturer, and it's easy. We did it by manufacturer, but chronologically, so it's easy to see like the evolution of the Fair Lady Roadsters, right? The 1500, 1600, and 2 liter. If that was scattered around the book by year, it would just be very difficult to follow the whole story.
Yeah, organization is pretty key when you have this many photos and this many models and this many pages to wade through. I think it flows really nicely going through. Once you get into a model, you can kind of go deep right around it, or you can bounce around that manufacturer and the way you labeled them on the outside on the spine, so you can jump to the manufacturer. It's almost like a reference model where you can jump to it pretty quickly. Anyway, it seems well thought out. So anyway, I wanted to compliment you on that.
Thank you.
Are there any what's the model you're most excited about how its presentation came out? What are the sort of highlights for you guys personally, each of you, in terms of I'm really glad we got that shot, or I'm really glad we got that car included?
So I mean, I have lots of favorite cars in the book. The Hino Samurai is a one-off. We don't have a lot of one-offs in the book, but that's just a spectacular Peter Brock designed car. It never really did anything famous on the racetrack, but it's just absolutely beautiful. Through the process of writing the book, I discovered the Pulsar GTIR, and I now own 2 of those cars, both Nismo editions. And it looks a little bit like a grocery getter. It's a hot hatch, but it is beyond spectacular to drive. I mean, it's all-wheel drive, fairly lightweight, 240 horsepower in factory tune, just with fuel and boost, you can get 400 horsepower. And if you crack the engine open, you can get 600 horsepower. It's like, when you drive it, it's like the Millennium Falcon. You just like hit the gas and it's shocking. And I've had lots of, non-Japanese collector people that are known in the hobby. David Gooding comes to mind, just as an example. He was visiting me, one day, and I said, I want you to take a ride in something. And he said, okay, well, you point. And I pointed to the Pulsar, and he was like, really? And we went for a ride together, and he was like laughing like a little kid driving the car, because it's incredible. It's an incredible driving car. And, one of the interesting things about Japanese cars that's different from my Italian cars is that every time you turn the key, they start.
Which is a big reason to have the cars.
Right. But
for me, ahead, some of the presentations that really kind of stand out were photographs that were done pretty recently, like even some, like, say, a simple car like the AutoZam AZ1, the photography that Evan Klein did of that's actually Mark's AZ1 that was photographed in Monterey for us. It's a relatively pedestrian car as far as, it's a 3000 made, gull-wing doors, but the photography just makes it super, super special. The Dome, done by Ted Seven, was actually shot at the Peterson Museum. Beautiful. I mean, just striking photography. Crazy car, striking photography. The Sylvia, the CSP 311 photography, and Kevin McCauley's work on. I've got a personal weakness for the Autex Zagato, which most people don't.
Yes, you do. You do have a weakness for that.
Yeah, Kevin even made that car look great. So
fancy lens work, or what do you have to do?
Whatever it is.
I love it. I'm flipping to, as fast as I can, I'm flipping to the pages where these cars are that you're talking about. I found the Samurai, which is unbelievable, on the cover of Road and Track, November 67. You guys include that cover. That's pretty neat. And then it's not the Dome, it's the Dome, correct? Is that what you said? Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's in the Peterson's white background Stark studio that they shoot in, but it's got gull-wing crazy or pivoting doors. And wow, what a wild machine, and beautiful photography showing that. But man, I love hearing from the authors their favorites, because there's so many, and I know there's a story to putting the format together with which ones are really the highlights. But all of them are really neat. I mean, you flip through further, and then Honda CRX content that seems somewhat pedestrian is showcased in as many beautiful glossy photos and perfect engine bays. Who has an engine bay that looks like that on a CRX? I don't really know anybody. But anyway, just really neat stuff.
And we didn't select these cars by value, by market value or appreciation or anything like that. Again, one of the things that kind of drove me to Japanese cars, I was really heavy into Porsche 356s for years. They could be bought cheaply. I've had over 100 of them. But the people
100? You've had 100 of those at any given time?
Yeah,
man, that's crazy. Did you write down all the VINs or something? How do you know you got 100?
I stopped at 100. I stopped counting at 100. Yeah.
Well, you stopped counting. I thought you achieved bliss at number 100. No. You finally got it right, and then you said, "I'm done. I'm good."
No, it was just achieving insanity is when you start counting that stuff. So
I'm sorry, you were saying something though. I derailed you.
Yeah. So, astonishment. One of the things that got away from me was that the people that my friends who were 356 hobbyists who, they're grassroots cars, we were buying them when nobody else cared. All of a sudden the cars got expensive. And the only thing that they really cared about was how much the cars were worth. It really kind of soured me on the hobby. And that's kind of where I found the passion for the grassroots Japanese car hobby. It's really kind of what drew me in. Actually, the first JDM car I bought was really from one of my idols in the hobby, Howard's dad, Martin Swig.
Which is awesome. Tell the story of that car. Actually, I thought there's actually been two that you bought from him.
Oh, I bought one.
There's a rally car and there's a weird convertible. Which one are you referring to?
Yeah, the Honda 1300 Coupe.
Oh, that's a third. I thought, I don't know how many we've gotten from him.
Oh yeah,
I
the
thought there were-
rally car. I forgot about the rally. Yeah, I still the
Isn't
rally
that a
car too.
Mazda or something? What is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
thing?
Mazda 626 rally car with like 250 original miles on
There
it,
you
something
go.
built for the Paris to Peking rally.
There you go. I don't forget this stuff, Myron. I don't forget these cars. Come on.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but the first JDM was from Martin, and Martin was, he's really, if there was like a role model in the hobby for me, it was Martin. He had the wherewithal and the taste to drive and buy anything he wanted. And he had super high end stuff, but he had just as much appreciation for this Datsun 200 SX convertible that I bought from the family after Martin had passed on. But he's passionate about those things, and 8 years later, I still have that car. 9 years later, I still have that car. So, he was kind of who I modeled my collecting, my work in the hobby after.
Well, it's always fun to interact with folks that have had crazy, wild stuff and kind of can have that if they want, but they kind of choose to follow where their heart takes them, and this book, you can kind of tell it kind of seeps out of the pages that sort of passion is what led you guys to do it, and what like I say, ends up with a product that you can be really proud of. So you guys ought to be. It's just super cool. I'm stoked that I brought it out here on the table so I can leaf through it again and again. But we appreciate it. I love it. I was very happy to pay full price for it. We're not doing this podcast because he gave me a free book. I wanted to support you guys, and at the moment I saw it at Pebble Beach, I was like, that's a must have. Is it a limited edition? It's only, are you guys going to print this thing as long as people will buy it, or you made a run and it's over and now you just got to sell the pallets full of books, or how does this model work?
So we made a run and it's over. It's not a, there's no business aspect of this for Myron and I.
Okay.
Again, we would like to recoup our investment.
Cool.
As would our wives.
But eventually there's not going to be any more of these, right? And
there will not be any more. And
they're going to be listed on BAT for 5x what you guys are trying to sell them for. What's going to happen? I don't know.
I think that's what's going to happen. The book has been available for 3 months, and we're selling more than 100 books a month. We've sold almost 350 books, and we printed 1,000. Cool. And so I think what's going to happen is what's happened to me before, where there was a book available, I wanted it, I just didn't act, and then all of a sudden I see it on a secondary market for 3x or 4x or whatever. But we're not going to print anymore. Do you agree with that, partner Myron?
No, yeah, absolutely. Although I should ask Kim. Kim's really the partner in that deal.
I was going to say, let's finalize the business plan right here on the podcast. You guys can just sort it all out if you want. I love it.
We really want the books in the hands of collectors and people who are going to love and enjoy it. But by this time next year, the books will be gone. Yeah. Myron and I will each have a few copies, but the books will be gone by this time next year.
Yeah,
great.
And as far as continuing, Randy, I really meant what I said to the gentleman at Pebble Beach. We really hope that this will spur other people to go on and do serious books about Japanese cars, great Japanese cars.
Yeah, I think it will. We've seen such an upswell of the Japanese category on BAT and people taking it seriously. Like, it's no joke. Like, the kind of pro photography that's done for 240Zs now is like off the charts. I don't know if you guys saw, we have a collection of Z cars selling right now by a guy who assembled, curated this set of cars. And yeah, he has enough dough. He could have done that with Porsches or whatever else, but he chose to do it with Z cars, and it's top shelf. And the presentation is such, you make a book out of that listing and that sale. And I think there's so much talent out there that's being fostered as well around photography and research and that sort of stuff. So I think there's probably more to come in this segment, but you guys are kind of, breaking through the barriers for everybody else to follow.
Someone had to do it. And, again, it's been more successful than we thought it would be at that point. And, Mark and I both showed cars at Amelia Island last year. That was a Japanese car class. And between us, separating us, was Bobby Rahal in the 2000 GT that he just purchased on BAT. And
he bought the red car on BAT. That's right.
Mighty proud of that car. He was.
Good. I'm proud of that car too. That was a very, very cool car. So anyhow, yeah, wrapping up here, we really appreciate you guys joining us. First of all, I appreciate you guys being part of BAT. You know, I mean, every time I learn more about BAT users and how sort of legitimate they are and their passions and their collections and what they've been doing, the fact that you guys are on our website and part of our community is really positive for us, and we appreciate it. I want to extend
Randy,
that.
can we mention the website where to get the book?
I would absolutely do that. Yeah. Before we sign
Okay.
off, I'm not going to boot you out the door yet, Mark. No problem
All
at all.
right.
But I just wanted to thank you guys for that for sure. And just tell you how incredible I think the final product came out. And yeah, if people want to get it, what's the path for them to be able to do it?
So it's www.quietgreatness.com.
Fantastic. Quiet Greatness. And yeah, people can go there to the website, and that's what I did. I went straight to the website and clicked on it, and you guys had it delivered to my door. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, anything else you guys want to share before we sign off?
Just thank you for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it. And again, it's holiday season. It's time to splurge on your favorite car enthusiast. Even if they're not a Japanese car enthusiast, it's a beautiful book that I think people would appreciate.
Yeah, perfect holiday item. So, okay, thanks, guys. Thanks so much. Would love to have you back to talk about all your other crazy projects and ideas going on with different cars in the collections, and we'll do that another time. So thanks for joining us on the BAT podcast.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you.